Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another Super Sports Card Collection show. I am getting more and more excited as the weeks and months go on because not only am I increasing my card collection, my football card collection, my baseball card collection, now I'm soccer cards and there's basketball cards and there's hockey cards. It is so exciting to be building my collection. And you know what? I do it for the kids because I get a lot of the cards that I get and I just recycle it back to the kids at different schools. And you'd be surprised how excited the kids are getting. And I see them huddling in the corners and trading. And so it's really been fantastic. And to help me do that, I've had people on this show that have accepted my invitations. Today, I am thrilled to have on Richmond Webb. Richmond, many of you from the Miami area know who Richmond Webb is. He was a stalwart on the Miami Dolphin team. He was an offensive tackle. Now, I have to ask him about this because last night, JoJo Townsell said, as a receiver, I might get hit 3 or 4 times a day, 3 or 4 times in a game, maybe 5 or 10 times in a game. And those crazy tackles, those crazy linemen are getting hit hundreds of times a game. So I want to ask you about that because that's just amazing stuff. He was with the Miami Dolphins, as I said, and later on with the Cincinnati Bengals. He played college football for the Texas A&M Aggies, and he was selected by the Dolphins as the 9th overall pick in the 1990 NFL draft. The 9th overall, in other words, out of the whole graduating class that year, he was picked as the 9th best college football player. He played for the Dolphins for 11 seasons and set team records for 118. I can't even imagine. He started 118 consecutive games, playing 184 games in total. And against all the biggest and most talented tackles in the league, he was chosen to play in 7 consecutive Pro Bowls. I mean, what an incredible honor. And one year, his offensive line protected the quarterback so well. You're not going to believe this. They only allowed 16 sacks of the quarterback all season. Hard to believe. What an incredible record and achievement. 6'6", 300-pound guy, he's probably a little bit more now, was only the 16th player in Miami Dolphin history to be inducted into the Dolphins honor roll. I am honored to have on my show. He's a Florida living legend. Richmond Webb, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Bruce, how you doing today? Thanks for having me on your show. How you doing today?
I'm doing better now that you're here with me, and I can't wait to discuss some of these things with you because, I've had hockey players on the show. I've had professional wrestlers. I've had baseball players. And last night I had on JoJo Townsell, and I never spoke to a guy that was a punt returner or a kick returner. I think that's the most unbelievable position. And then he said, that's nothing. You should, these guys on the line, they're going at it like there's no tomorrow all game long, taking these big hits. Those are the guys that you can look up to. So unbelievable that you played so many consecutive games without an injury. Tell me a little bit about your college career and how that got you ready to get going and how they noticed you, of course, in the NFL.
Yeah, well, fortunate, like you said, I went to Texas A&M and was kind of a two-way player in high school and got recruited as a defensive lineman coming out of high school. And for like the first year and a half, I played defense, and then My head coach, Jackie Sherrill, made the decision to switch me to um, offensive line, and wasn't real happy about it at first, but that was probably the best thing he ever did for me. And finally got that down and took off. And like you said, I was drafted first round by the Dolphins, and then went on to play 13 years in the NFL and played with a lot of great guys. Mark Duper, Mark Clayton, and of course everybody knows who Dan Marino is, but guys like that, and Keith Sims, and just really was fortunate and blessed to play with some really great teammates and stuff like that. And I was listening to you, Bruce, talk about JoJo, about the offensive lineman, but to be a punt returner, to be able to focus on catching that ball when you got 10, 11 guys coming full speed down there at you to, tackle you, and you got to make a decision whether to fair catch it or, try to make a quick move. That's a gutsy play. So, I would rather do what I did, and I'll let JoJo do what he did. And that's probably why he did it so well as well.
Unbelievable. A couple of weeks ago, I had on a two-time Super Bowl champ, a two-time defensive lineman of the year, Leonard Marshall, on the show. And Leonard just said to me flat out, Bruce, I was a beast.
He was. I played against Leonard Marshall my rookie year, and he was on that defense with Carl Banks, Pepper Johnson, of course, Lawrence Taylor.
Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah, my rookie year, they went on to win the Super Bowl. So, yeah, they were no slouches, and they were one of the best defensive units in the NFL back then. So, yeah, Leonard was an all-time great, and he's well known for playing for the Giants and went to LSU as well. So, yeah, he's definitely one of the guys that we look up to, because of he set the way before I came in, but I had an opportunity to play against him, and he was just a great player, tremendous guy.
And you just said it. I was just going to say, tremendous guy. He came on and did my show. We met each other kind of like you and I, not met personally, but we met each other on LinkedIn several years ago. And I just knocked on his door and I said, Leonard, I'm doing this show for kids, to get kids interested in autographs, and kids interested in baseball cards and football cards and memorabilia. Because as far as I'm concerned, as a teacher, they're on the computer too much. I'm not saying any new news here. It's common knowledge that they're on the computer too much, and they've lost some of that tactile ability to be with people and to negotiate. Hey, I'm giving these cards to kids, and they're negotiating with each other and trading. And that's exactly what I wanted to see happen. And I'm thrilled. You must have collected some great paraphernalia along the way.
I did, and that was a fortunate thing. One of the big things when I went to the Pro Bowl, those times we would always, find a guy to trade helmets with. They would signing. And at the time, you didn't think much about it, but I've got a pretty good collection, and some guys just went in the Hall of Fame, so I have some of their stuff, and just really formed some real lifelong friendships and stuff like that. But you're right. I love the approach that you're using with the trading cards, because, like you said, with the cell phones and computers, it's almost like it forces you to isolate yourself, and people don't talk and communicate and socialize like they used to. So this is a tool that we can use for the younger generation to kind of reintroduce that and spark that. I think that's definitely needed. So hats off to you as well. That's a great thing.
Thank you. Just today, I keep my teaching and this kind of work and my book writing, I keep it separate. But today it slipped out of my mouth that I had on a JoJo on the show. And right away, it didn't take them long. I gave them the name of the show, and they went there and they found it and they started watching it. Right? It was like, whoa, I don't want you taking up too much, but it's working. In other words, what we're doing, and for you to come on the show, you don't have to come on my show. You're not selling your book. You're not selling anything. For you to come on my show and give me your time means a lot to me. And it's going to mean a lot to the kids when they see And how about their parents? You're a living legend here in Miami and in Florida, and their parents are going to be watching this show and saying, "Wow, look at that! Richmond is alive and still kicking and still looking good." And so, even after 185 games against the toughest, the toughest guys, I have to ask you this question. The game is over. You
Yes.
played against some complete maniacs. They tried to destroy your life. At the end of the game, you shake hands. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's that's the thing is once the game is over, you kind of go back to being a normal person. But in between those, those 4 quarters, or for by just some circumstance, the game goes into overtime, you're going to compete as long as the game is going on. But at the end of the game, you might not be happy that you won or lost, but at least, it's just sportsmanship. You go shake that guy's hand, because a lot of guys you're going to end up playing against again or whatever. Or some of them might even become your teammates, just the way the NFL works. So, yeah, I always did that, even in high school. It was just groomed. That was the way sportsmanship was. You give it your best shot, you give it 100%, but you're not gonna win it every game. And I think that helps you transition in life. So when you get defeated or whatever, you can say, hey, it's a setback, but it's not you might lose the battle, but you're trying to win the war. So you're gonna take some nicks and bruises along the way. But as long as you do more well than you do, get beat up on, most of the time, you're all right. So I always look forward to that. And then, a lot of times you see guys in the off season, just depending on where you live at, or a lot of guys go out to the Super Bowl, you get to meet people. So it's just, it's a brotherhood. And we all love the game and this and that. So it's nothing personal most of the time. And that's the way you always try to view it. So I think that's why we get along so well.
Are you going out to the Super Bowl this year?
I'm not going out to Vegas this year. I gotta go out of town for some other stuff, but I'll definitely be watching. I watch the Super Bowl every year, and I'm really happy for Vegas, because the Raiders moved out there from California, and I think it'll be good for the fans. And I always love hanging out in Vegas. It's just the shows. There's so much to do,
Ah,
and
it's a
I'm
lot of
sure the
fun.
trip will be packed. Yeah, should have a lot of fun.
So I happened to catch a couple of minutes of you on Houston television,
Okay?
and they asked you some questions about, okay, who's going to win the playoffs?
Yeah.
I don't know if you got two wrong or just one wrong. Can you fill me in?
I know I got. I know I got. I definitely got. I thought I had picked Baltimore to win. I thought they would beat Kansas City, so I definitely got that one wrong. And then the game against Detroit and the 49ers, I really didn't pick. I wanted both of them to do well, because Dan Campbell is an Aggie. He's the head coach. Aaron Glenn is a Aggie. He's the defensive coordinator for Detroit Lions. But then Johnny Holland is a linebackers coach for the 49ers, and he's an
Hey,
Aggie. And actually, he was the guy that recruited me to come to Texas A&M. So
wow.
I had too many brothers on opposite sides, so it was hard to like sway one way or another. So I
Wow.
stayed away from that one now.
Imagine being able to train your mind with the same precision you train your body. The Awaken Mind headset offers personalized audio programs that can help enhance your concentration, reduce stress, and optimize recovery times. It's like having a personal mental coach available anytime you need to dial in your focus or unwind after an intense session. I believe that this tool can be a valuable addition to your training arsenal, giving you the mental sharpness and relaxation needed for those critical moments when games are won or lost. If you're interested in learning more about how this headset can be integrated into your routine for peak performance, contact me at the number below. I'd like to share more about how this technology can support your journey to the top. Wishing you continued success and looking forward to the possibility of contributing to your legacy as a professional athlete. But what a game that was. I only saw the first half of the Detroit game, and I said, wow, they are really beating them up. It's not even like there's competition. They were just so good. And I said, where did this Lion team come from? Do you know?
They manhandled them, and last year they missed the playoffs, but early on they had lost some really close games that could have went either way. But they really hit their stride toward the end of last year. And I said, man, that's going to be a team if they stay healthy to look out for. And they came back and picked up where they were last year and ran. And I think they were maybe the third team in as far as the division, which is excellent, and went, like you say, went into the 49ers road team in the first half.
Woo.
They really manhandled them. And then, but that's why you got to play the full game, but take the hats off the 49ers. They came back, regrouped, and made some plays, swung the momentum, and then ended up winning a real close game. So it was a great game to watch as a fan.
To me, it's 100% coaching, how these things go. And tell me about that young guy that was got everybody in Detroit going and having them achieve so much.
Yeah, I think Dan Campbell. That's just the way he is. He's gonna give you his all. I think he's a young, tough coach. He's still learning and this and that, and possibly would change some decisions he decided to make. Sunday against the 49ers, but I think that's who he is, and his teammates or his players recognize who he is. And I tell people all the time, you can be a tough coach. I say, but you got to be genuine, and if you show yourself to be true to who you are and they believe in you, they'll run through a brick wall for you. So they definitely trust him. They bought into his system. They know he genuinely cares about them. And I think that's why they've had the success that they've had.
Up in New York in the early '80s, there was a guy named Bill Parcells who took over for the Giants, and he went 3-12 the first year. And Leonard said, well, they were ready to dump him. Nobody should go 3-12 in the greater metropolitan area. No one's going to stand for that. And right after that, he started drafting. He started getting some players. He said to Leonard, he said, Leonard, I don't like the guy we have in there now. I believe in you, and I think you could help turn the club around. And then things started happening with all those other defensive guys. So the coaching, tell me about the coaches along the way that made a big difference in your life.
Yeah, even from my high school coaches to, like I said, Jackie Sherrill was my head coach in college, and then he left, and then R.C. Slocum, another great head coach, and then getting drafted by the Dolphins. I played for Don Shula, definitely partial to him because he gave me that opportunity and drafted me to the Dolphins. And then after he left, I had Jimmy Johnson, and then my last year was Dave Wanstead. And then I went to Cincinnati for 2 years, and Dick LeBeau was the head coach, and had tremendous respect for him because he was another coach that had coached for years, head coach, defense coordinator, but he was also a former player. Matter of fact, I think he played for Detroit Lions. So um, just being surrounded by people that had played the game and just really done well at it and excelled. And I tell people today, some of the stuff that Coach Shula instilled in me, being on time, not making mental errors, penalties, how important that was, knowing your assignments, this and that, because in the NFL, a lot of times that's what it comes down to is the little nuances that people forget about. Don't play smart football. Don't make those costly mistakes, those penalties, because that can stop a drive or whatever. And most NFL games are decided by 3 or 4 points. So when you figure out it's that close, majority of the time, sometimes it's on average that's what it is, but that can make the difference in you being a winning season, or 2 or 3 games you have penalties where you lose them where you possibly could have won. It makes all the difference in the world. And I've transitioned and carried it on even after playing football, and it hadn't done nothing but help me. So it was tremendous things to learn in my early ages.
I had a chance to meet John Wooden out in California, and the most successful college basketball coach. And I read his book, and I'm seeing a theme here. And the theme is that he wasn't necessarily just teaching his players to be the best athletes in the world, he was teaching his players to be the best man that they can possibly be. And I really think that that's the big difference in a successful coach. It isn't just, browbeating you and yelling and screaming, but if he could make a difference in your life and make you the best man that you can be, I think you're going to show up on that field better and better every week.
Yeah, and even in life, because I think what a truly good head coach understands or coach understands is that you can only do this for so long. So even if you can play to 35, some guys, I think Tom Brady played to maybe 40, 41, you still got a lot of life after football. And the thing is that I began to realize as I've gotten older and got out the game is that being a really good coach, you're almost like a father figure because even though you coach them, they'll still come back to you for advice. They look to you for certain situations and this and that. So it's like you got a bunch of sons, or if you coach girls, you got a bunch of daughters. But when they look up to you and they respect you and they know you're gonna tell them, what you think is best for them to do, that you'll always have that type of relationship. And matter of fact, a few months ago, I went back to College Station and they had an 80th birthday party for Jackie Sherrill, my coach. So a
Wow.
lot of former players. So I just say it's a life job. It's not just whether it's professional or college or whatever. You're stuck with them from that point on, and that I think that's the beautiful thing about it. But you got to really love nurturing and mentoring young men and young women in order to really do it. You can't fake it because if you do, they'll figure it out.
Tell me something that people don't know about Don Shula.
Whew. Well, I think they know most. The thing that I probably think they don't know if they're not from the South Florida area, or whatever, was he was always big on giving back to people that was less fortunate to us. When I was there, he really, pressed upon us to go to the hospitals, volunteer. The United Way was had a big partnership with NFL, and I always give back to people that were less fortunate than you. And I can remember going to the hospitals at times, and it's not that you give money all the time, but it's just time. And like you said, sometimes that's all a kid needs if he's going through cancer or leukemia, or he's got some real serious illness, to have some professional player, no matter what the sport is, or somebody you see on TV come by and you're able to shake their hand or talk to them or take a picture with them. Just a few minutes, it makes a world of difference, and a lot of time it helps them fight the battle that they have in front of them and help them able to achieve, getting healed from that or whatever. But it's just it makes such a huge impact that it took me a while before I really realized how important it was for doing those little things. But I'm glad he stayed on us and made us, or impressed upon us that this is what you got to do. And it gives you a good feeling down inside.
That's great. What a wonderful, beautiful message that is. It's because I'm a big volunteer person, and it isn't about money, it's about time. Tell me something about Richmond Webb that a lot of people don't know.
Well, probably a lot of people don't know is, well, a few years back, Bruce, we went through the coronavirus deal. So we actually, everybody was shut down where you couldn't really do anything or whatever. And one thing I started doing, I started gardening, and I
Hey,
really like gardening. It's good for mental. I really like doing. I really like seeing the seed and it breaks the ground, and then you start seeing everything come to fruition and this and that. And it's just a good place to meditate and stuff. And it's been doing it probably since COVID and got into it, and I just love it. So that's probably the thing that they don't know about me.
that's terrific. I have a neighbor right across the street from me who's her backyard built this big garden, and
Yeah.
she's got stuff coming up now. She says, "Wait till the summer. Oh, I'll be feeding the whole neighborhood." lettuce and tomatoes and cucumbers. And I'm saying, wow, how cool is that? I love that. That's really great, Richmond. That's really cool. One of the things I always wonder about when you have so many successful years playing on this field behind me here and on this grass and in front of these people that are in the stands. We're talking about 50,000 people in the stands, and you've got one team, one set of teammates, linemen who I'm sure you're great friends with to this day. I'm sure about that. That's the message I keep hearing. And then you either come to the end of that contract or you get traded. So, first, tell me what happened at the end of your experience in Miami, and then I'll ask you the next part.
Yeah, I think it is I think the good thing is I was fortunate to spend 11 years there, and the NFL is a business, and I think it was just a business decision. As I got older, I had some injuries and this and that, and so as a general manager, you have to look and say, how much more possibly longevity does this guy have to play this that. So you look at it from a business standpoint and what it might cost to keep a guy or whatever, and you got to make everything fit because you might have to spend money in certain areas and this and that. And so the thing I always said about that, it was nothing personal. We didn't get it worked out, but I was able to go to Cincinnati and they welcomed me with open arms. I was able to play there a couple of years, continue to play the game that I love, and I'm definitely appreciate that. The good thing is, the NFL is one big family. And then after I retired, I called the Dolphins up and I said, "Hey, I want to come back and retire Dolphin." And they welcomed me with open arms. I went and signed a 1-day contract, and I retired the Dolphin, the team I started with, and that was very important to me. And I still go back to the games and stuff, and it's nothing personal. They're not mad at me going from Cincinnati, or I'm not mad at them. It's just it's part of the business, and I think when you understand that, it gives you a different viewpoint, and rather than you taking it personal and not really assessing the situation and look back and say, in business, sometimes you got to make tough decisions, and you got to do what you think is right, and all the time it's not the right decision, but you gotta go one way or the other, and sometimes it is the right decision. So it's part of life, and you live and learn, and I think that's what this journey on this side is about.
So, if a kid goes from one school to another, they go from middle school to high school, or they trade schools, they find themselves standing in a new place. It's strange, it's different. Can you tell me about that?
Well, going from Miami to Cincinnati, yeah, it was a little different. I think the thing is that since I was a veteran, I knew some other guys that actually were already on the team, so that made my transition a little easier. And then you got some younger guys that had probably heard of you that just never played with you, and you get to learn them, and then I think it's a little curiosity because they might want to see how you practice, how you carry yourself, this and that, and they end up learning things from you and say, "Hey, this guy, this is his 12th year in the league, but you know, he's here on time. He approaches it. He's still." And younger guys learn from that, and people watch you without you even knowing they're watching you.
Right.
I think that's the thing, and I found it out, or people come tell me, "Man, you told me this a long time ago," and I don't really remember the conversation, but just let you know that you can make an impact. It's not necessarily that you remember, but long as they remember and act on it, that's the important thing. So um, I think that was a good thing. I think it's a little tougher if you're a younger guy and not well known, bouncing from team to team. But for me, it wasn't that bad, and they really had great fans up there, really supporting stuff. So I just had to get used to that cold weather. But other than that, that was it.
Oh, I can ask another question. That's a great one, man. Here you are, playing in 80, 85-degree weather, sweating your uh, butt off. And then, like the next week, fans wonder about this.
Yeah.
How are you able to cope? Is there a big difference when you're playing here every day in the 80s and you go up north and it's 20?
Uh, I think the biggest difference is you just got to set your mind and say it's going to be cold. I think sometimes when it's tough, is as long as the game is pretty close, you don't really focus on the weather. At least I don't. You know what I'm saying? But if we get up there and we're winning by 2 or 3 touchdowns, I might be looking and say, man, we need to get this game over. Or if you lose it by 2 or 3 games, 2 or 3 touchdowns. But as long as the game is kind of close and you're in it, you don't necessarily focus on it. And you go out there for the series, and then when you come to the sideline, they got the heated benches, they got a jacket they can throw over you or whatever. So it is cold. I feel more for the fans in heat and cold weather because as a fan, you're just sitting there. At least we can kind of move around, we run around this and that. But as a fan, you're just sitting in that same seat, this and that. And so I think it's a lot tougher on the fans than the players, but everybody always focus on the players. But I think it's much harsher to be a fan and sit in the stands for 3 hours for the same spot and not being able to move around.
Yeah, I'll share a story I told JoJo last night. I said, my dad took me to all the New York Giant games. Y.A. Tittle, Fran Tarkenton, Homer Jones, Frank Gifford, Jim Catkavage, Sam Huff. That's when I was going to those games. And the Giants played the Colts in the championship in '63. And my dad took me to the game in the middle of December. Oh, my goodness gracious. This little boy was like, Dad, please take me home, take me home. And I was wondering, all these guys had this like silver, this silver canister.
Yeah.
What is inside that silver canister that's keeping them, okay?
It's hot chocolate, Bruce.
Oh, I said, Dad, please take me home. I hope he did. Maybe he did, but it
Yeah,
was,
it was brutal. Yeah.
it was brutal. It was brutal. Talk about brutal. I'm going to ask you one more. You've been so kind to spend this time with me. I'm going to ask you one more football question. Then I'm going to ask you about life after the NFL. Who were the toughest guys that you played against? I don't necessarily mean they don't have to be brutal, but athletic, got around you, gave you the most difficult time. Who are some of those guys?
Yeah, I always tell people that the toughest guy I had to play against, and sometimes I had to play him 2 or 3 times a year, was Bruce Smith in Buffalo. And
Oh,
the good thing, and I tell people this too, I put Bruce and Reggie White in a whole different level class to
oh,
players. And the good thing was Reggie was on the opposite side, so I only had to deal with Bruce. But he played well against the run. He was a great pass rusher. He checked all the boxes. I mean, it was 60 minutes of hell, and you knew it, and he was gonna give you all. And then the other thing was Buffalo was one of our arch rival teams, and so that just added to the flavor. So I had some really good battles with him. Some of them I won, some of them I lost, but I always look forward to playing against him because he was the best. And if you can play against the best, and most of the time match up pretty well, even if it's just a tie. I'm good with that. But yeah, that's the toughest guy I had to play against in and year out.
There was a team that was the best team in football that I'm not sure about when you played them, but every time the Dolphins played the Patriots, you beat them. Is that my imagination? You beat them at least 4 out of 5 times, whether it was down there or up there. Can you explain that?
Yeah, early on, and then if you remember the guy you mentioned, Big Tuna went to New England,
Yes.
and Bledsoe was quarterback, and man, he knows how to build a team. So it kind of changed a little bit. He changed the culture of that team, and then after he left, I think he went to the Jets, and he changed the culture of that team. And changed the culture of that team was a guy named Bill Belichick that went back to New England and just continued what he did. But that's the thing about Bill Parcells, and then he went there and he coached the Cowboys and had success there. So one thing he knew how to he had an eye for talent. He knew how to build a team and make them competitive and uh, keep a core group of guys together to continue this for a long span of time. So just a great coach. But yeah, you're right. We used to kind of beat up on him early on a little bit, but when he got there, things kind of changed where we might win one time and lose one time. So yeah, he was a great coach.
So one of the other things, before I let you go, you've been so kind. Before I let you go, I always wonder, I want to hear the story from each guy. You know, you got this whole stadium back there, and there's 50,000 people on your side and screaming for you and loving you and rooting for you. And then you retire. You hear that quiet?
Hmm.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, I think the main thing is that I think you come to a point to where, whether you get injured or whatever, you gotta hang them up. But I always tell people it seems like it always comes quicker than you expected. Um, and then the other thing is that even when it comes, it's a transition. Some guys transition better than others. I think it took me about 4 years. First couple years, I didn't watch a lot of football. It's just you're so used to a regiment and a time of year. I know when it's training camp, you're not there. You're not around your teammates. You're not in the locker room. So you're like, you're trying to like debrief. You're trying to like say, okay, I'm not doing it anymore. But it took me I think about 4 years, and I started kind of getting back into it, watching the games, and then I go back for a couple of games and stuff like that. So um, even you get some time to get opportunity to walk out on the field, and you kind of it
Ugh,
kind of gives you that little eerie feeling that man, I
ugh.
remember this, but I know I'm too old to do it now. But it's just you kind of reflect back and just just be grateful that you actually had an opportunity to do that because many people don't. And I had a long time and I appreciate that. But yeah, you're right. It's definitely an adjustment that I think each guy makes. Some just do it better than others, and some of them never get over that. Yeah,
Because I was in the entertainment industry for years, and when those actors, especially the actresses, the
yeah.
beautiful actresses, when they're no longer in demand, oh my goodness, they go through a tough time. And so it's got to be very, very similar in football. So tell me, I think you're living in the South Florida area. Am I correct with that?
I am in Texas. I'm in Houston. But I go
Oh,
back and forth to Florida. But yeah, but I've been in Houston. I retired, moved back to Texas after I finished playing. So I'm living in Houston now. But I still
so
got the number. Yeah.
So I'm glad you caught on to the Eastern time zone, Central time zone thing, because I thought you were in Florida. Tell me what you're doing, what you want us to know about afterlife of the NFL.
I'm retired. Before we started the show, Bruce, my wife was helping me, but our youngest daughter is at Texas A&M, and she graduated
Woo!
in May. And just trying to learn to be an empty nester. We got her
Oof,
situated, got our little girl
another
situated.
tough thing.
So
Another tough one.
I got another evolve, and I'm evolving into that. But we're starting to travel a little bit more, and have a little bit of time to spend more time together. So that's my next hurdle. That's what I'm adjusting to right now.
Well, Richmond, I couldn't imagine having a better experience of a podcast than I've had with you. You just, told me some things that I never heard before. And I just that makes such a huge difference because I want the parents, I want the young people to hear it for themselves, what it's like to be a professional athlete, how different it is, and it's a one in a million opportunity. I mean, you just said it a little while ago. A lot of people daydream about doing something like that, and you did it, but it is a one in a million thing, and especially to go as many years as you went, especially to get all those awards and to be at the top of your game. Uh, I give you kudos. I give you a lot of congratulations.
Well, Bruce, I appreciate it, and yeah, like you said, it's just a lot of times I always just say, you know, everybody has a dream, but always have your backup plan. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and even if you do have that dream and you get a chance to live it, be realistic because I dreamed about playing professional football, but um, as you get older, you can only do this for so long, but get your education or whatever, because you can use that a lot longer. Your muscles are going to kind of get, your bones get weaker, and they steady have guys that are just as big and strong that's 5 and 6, 7 years, 8 years younger than you. So it's a young man's game, and if you get an opportunity to do it, enjoy it, appreciate it, give your best at it, and have no regrets. That's what I try to tell people.
Can I send you some cards to autograph? Because I know that kids, they want to know that they can get autographs. Do you have a system where you accept cards and you
I'll send you a LinkedIn address. You can send me some cards. I'll sign them for you.
Okay, that'll be great. I want to thank you again, Richmond. What a wonderful guest. I'm so glad that you decided to spend this time with me. Great guy. I am attracting the best people onto this show. I really, really appreciate it. And I wish you all the best in the near future.
Hey, thanks, Bruce. And again, I appreciate you having me on your show. I had a blast. It was good.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody. We'll see you again. Imagine being able to train your mind with the same precision you train your body. The Awaken Mind headset offers personalized audio programs that can help enhance your concentration, reduce stress, and optimize recovery times. It's like having a personal mental coach available anytime you need to dial in your focus or unwind after an intense session. I believe that this tool can be a valuable addition to your training arsenal, giving you the mental sharpness and relaxation needed for those critical moments when games are won or lost. If you're interested in learning more about how this headset can be integrated into your routine for peak performance, contact me at the number below. I'd like to share more about how this technology can support your journey to the top. Wishing you continued success and looking forward to the possibility of contributing to your legacy as a professional athlete.